I've got 7 if you want to start.
Yeah. All right, I'm gonna call to order the July 28th, 2026 Canterbury Planning Board meeting. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so we have quorum. First item on the agenda is approval of the June 23rd, 2026 draft meeting minutes. Were there any changes that were sent in? Does anyone have any other changes for those meeting minutes? All right, is there a motion to approve the meeting minutes as drafted?
I'll move to approve the meeting minutes as drafted.
Second?
Second.
All right, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Any abstentions? All right, meeting minutes approved. 1, 2, 3. If we need to pull another chair, Cal, just let us know. I think we're good right now, but if we end up just I'm not paying attention. All right, first on public hearings is 2026-3, which is 3 requests grouped up. So we've got a request to subdivide 22 Aberton Road, map 241, lot 28, into 3 lots, and then 2 lot line adjustments, presumably to make that happen. One between 22 Aberton Road and 43 Aberton Road, and one between 22 Aberton Road and 16 Aberton Road. So to start us off, what we're going to take up first is completeness, see if we have all the materials we need to rule on the 2 lot line adjustments on the subdivision. And then to do that, what we'll start is I'll ask just, can you describe like what materials you've provided, whether you asked for any waivers of requirements. If you have someone from Oil Tanner.
That's my man there.
Yeah, he can take the seat. Sorry, I assumed he would have been up there. Do you want it there? Or let's get to another chair.
I'm gonna switch. Okay.
You sure? Yeah. You're like I would prefer to be off the hot seat.
More than anything.
All right. So can you just walk us through the materials you have so we can act on completeness, and then after completeness you can get into detail about all of the.
So yeah, it's a subdivision of lot 28. We submitted a floor plan set. It's an overview. The second 2 will be the reportable sheets showing the detail of the subdivision and adjustments, and then a topographic sheet. We have 4 waiver requests due to the large size of the tracts. Not to map all the wetlands on them, all the wetland setbacks, to show 5-foot topography instead of 2-foot, and not all dimensions to the nearest 100th. We did a boundary survey in the part of the property in the middle where the adjustments are taking place, and then held plans of record and deed calls for to fill in some of the rest.
So for purposes, I guess, to start us off with wetland setbacks, can you show us where on these plans you have depicted wetlands and where you want a waiver from depicting wetlands?
Sure. Well, so what the wetland scientist did is in order to prove these lots, albeit they're huge, but that they have enough buildable area for the regulations, he took some GIS data, so he had an inkling where to do this on each lot, but he walked certain areas, and these are highlighted on the topo sheet as the evaluated area that he looked at.
Can you help me find out where that line is?
So, yeah. Excuse me. So on this lot, these are the.
Oh, is this
This is the topo sheet.
the one you submitted after the fact?
It's the last sheet. You wanna?
Well, I'm looking at his sheet and I'm seeing the highlighted line is not on this one. And Cal had mentioned there was another one, so I'll just try that.
It's in the application folder. I printed it out on the ledger paper.
Yeah. 1 second.
Yeah.
Unless I already took it out and showed it to you and it's somewhere else in that pile.
So, maybe you did, so, oh, there it is. Alright. Topographic plan.
So these dash lines, there's a delineation area here. There's one. And this entire corner over here, it's labeled limit of area evaluated for wetlands. And then I realized that we hadn't actually done one for the middle lot, which is where the Aberton's house is and will be. And so I've added that and I highlight it right here on yellow, it's just an area that.
And that's not currently on.
Right, that is not.
Okay.
I added that since then, because I realized we hadn't done it.
Make sure I understand it right. It's this section here that you have delineated.
Yep.
There's I'm not gonna get
Yep.
it exact, but an area that was right here, and then this triangle.
Correct, yep.
Okay.
So these are areas that in and of themselves are much larger than the required buildable area. But he walked it, mapped the wetlands with the GPS, and they're approximate, and we have a note there that it's, preliminary planning, and that if any development is done in those areas, the understanding is that they would be mapped at that time. So walked it, mapped wetlands that he saw, and then we took out the wetlands and 15% slopes in those areas, and just to prove that there's plenty of buildable land. It was 8 or 9 acres he came up with, so well over the 5 and the 3 acres required.
Show us like approximately where the buildable areas would be on the 3 lots, like within the
Well,
delineated areas.
Yeah, I mean, not specifically, you can see the wetlands, so, anywhere that there's uplands and in there. There's very little on this lot here. There's no wetlands on the middle lot, which again, you don't have because I just put it on. It's right in the middle. So
And
we didn't put the 15% slopes on here. We've done them in AutoCAD, but we didn't put them on. They got really busy.
and where would the access be to the 3?
Yep. So there's an access and a buildable site right here in the middle. So that's one, and it has plenty of site distance. This is another one. Actually, up here you can build up in there, and that has site distance too. This one, this has frontage on. Well, that's another revision I had to make. Excuse me. Shaker Road's a state road. It was labeled Class 5, but it's not. So there's a buildable area on there. We got a driveway permit from DOT, just because it would be required. And then there's also ample buildable opportunities up in through here, but that's coming off of Class 6.
Sorry, I was trying to follow along. I got caught on number 2 with the middle lot. Where was the access?
Right in here. Oh, the access?
Yes.
Well, this is the existing house.
So that's the one that has the
That's,
existing
yeah,
house. I see.
that's, yeah.
And it's accessed off Aberton currently.
It is off the Class 5 portion.
Okay. And for the other waivers, you'd mentioned a setback.
Oh, the wetlands and the setbacks, not to show all the wetlands
Okay,
and their
wetlands and
setbacks.
setbacks. So there isn't you're not missing other setbacks.
Right, so I believe it's stated that all of the wetlands are not mapped on these lots.
Mhm.
That would be a huge endeavor. So that's
I was just thinking through whether we have enough information and on, I'm gonna call it that, where's my compass rose? But you know what I'm talking about, what is it, eastern lot.
Yep.
28-2.
Mm.
You mapped this top area,
Right,
but you were describing a potential building location.
Right.
That is not within that area, and then I also see the designation that says 25-foot wetland setbacks.
right.
So I'm
That's
not
to
tracking.
right, it's to prove. So this one, he actually mapped and flagged and located. So that is a buildable. It's a buildable area for a house lot, and that was to prove that you could build on there. So he did. That was the only one that he actually mapped, flagged, and we've shown accurately. And there's a note to that effect. The other areas were
Just gonna help me out, so I'm following along.
Yeah.
Which note? So is that number 6?
Yes.
And then 22
Yeah.
on the portion
Yeah.
of frontage up. So on 22, you have the high level where he did the walk of that northern part of the parcel, but also delineated along Shaker Road in the area that you showed us.
Right.
So it's two different things.
Right. Yeah.
And just I'm tracking. For that area, what part is the wetland and what part is the setback?
So it's kind of a large scale, but the line that's a line, dot line with the little wetland symbols.
Yeah.
Is the edge of wet, and then 25-foot. There's a dash line.
Like the long dash here?
Correct. Right here.
Okay, so it is pointing exactly at it. It's just a.
Yes.
All right, can you follow that?
Yeah.
Yes. You good, Greg, Logan?
Yes, I follow that.
All right. I think can you just show us where the two lot line adjustments are shown, so we can see if we have. Yes. Clifton, welcome. You don't want to jump right in? All right. He's an alternate, sorry. Okay.
So the yellow highlight is lot 28 as it is.
Okay.
Go all the way from Baptist across Abberton to Shaker Road, both sides of Abberton Road. So the subdivision of that will create a line right here. It's going to be Peverly Brook
Okay.
dividing off
28-1.
28-1.
Okay.
The other lot would be where the house is, 28, this middle lot. And then the third lot would be the Shaker Road lot over here. And at the same time, or in whatever order, this orange area is the adjustment between
27 and
28. So this 0.68 will be annexed to 27. And then the other adjustment is up here, this orange. So this chunk of current lot 28 will become part of lot 29. So
is lot 29 currently? Well,
Currently 29
For the fact that Abberton Road is right there, it's
29 is the pink right here,
okay.
and they're gonna add
There's a home there.
this.
They just really wanted to have more than one abutter.
Um,
So parcel B would be added to lot 29.
Yes. And so this is a new line here.
In terms of application materials, any other questions from anyone else or any concerns related to the information that they've provided in terms of being able to act on the lot lines and the subdivision? Logan, do you see anything? Greg?
Can you point out the access off Shaker Road for us? If you did before, I'm sorry, I missed.
I don't believe I did. We did a DOT plan, and it's right here. So that's a upland access to a building area.
And so there's only one access.
Yeah, up here, he didn't obviously map all the wetlands, but at this end, there is a forested wetland that goes to the property line. So in order to get up there, you need a wetland permit. And same with the other side. This is also a buildable area up here, but again, you need a wetland permit to do it. So somebody might choose to do that, I don't know, but I don't know if wetlands would give them one or not.
Alright, and you also have the driveway permit, it was added a little bit later, it was at 7/24, right? Alright, any other questions, Greg?
No, I don't think.
Not at this time. I just was curious about the note on, the lot, this is on 28-1 about C note number 9, but I'm not seeing any note number 9. Do you know what that was pertaining to?
Might be on a different sheet. Might be the problem.
Oh, the approximate edge of wetland.
Okay. It's note number 5.
There's only one page that has a note number 9.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's note number 5 on the same sheet.
on the sheet we want.
Yeah, the topo sheet. Where he's talking about the wetlands and what he did. That's note number 5.
So it's just misnumbered.
Huh?
Misnumbered. on the-
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Calvin? Alright, I would make a motion to accept the application as complete.
I'll second it.
I'd like you to make the motion.
Oh, I thought you said I may.
I would like, I just like ask and it appears, yeah.
I make the motion.
Alright.
Accept, yes.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion on completeness? Alright, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Alright. Start us off a little bit, but can you now, I guess, where I'm thinking is, can you help us out with the comparative dimensions of these different parcels and what you envision between the 2 lot line adjustments and the 2 new parcels?
So we basically list the final areas of the lots. So 29.
Okay, if I grab it.
28-2 on
Sorry.
Shaker.
So what would what does 29 start at and what does it go to?
I'm not sure we list the starting.
Sorry.
That's a lot larger.
Starts at 8.
Oh, 18.37.
Yeah, it was-
page 3.
Getting
Alright,
a little busy. Goes to 1837.
so
It increases quite a bit.
new areas 18. Parcel B was 10, so it was from like 8 to 18. Alright. And the frontage for lot 29, does that, it has an existing residence and that's accessed by Aberton currently?
Yeah. Yeah. Class 6 portion, I believe.
Is any amount of parcel B and like conservation or have any easements restricting them?
Not that we found.
Okay. Alright, which lot's next?
So,
You do 28-2.
the resulting 28-2, which essentially part of the subdivision, the lot line adjustment sort of creates the subdivision too, ends up at 61.99.
62 acres. And that one will have how much frontage left
So
over
it
on
has
Everton?
1,300 or so on Shaker, and then I have to look at my notes a lot. 28-2. 62 acres. Don't have that listed. I think it's on here. Sorry. Shaker Road, 1,300 feet.
Oh, that's right.
Abington, yeah,
It's 744.
Yeah.
Okay. 27. And to show us that at least there is one area you can build, you're saying there's a possibility that they could access off of Abington or to the south on Shaker or
Yeah. I
further
mean,
north on Shaker, but all of those would impact wetlands. You're showing the
on
one
Shaker it would, yes.
the one area on Shaker where there is sufficient to site a residence,
Correct.
which wouldn't involve a driveway or the building being within the wetland setback.
Right.
And they've got the 25-foot setback for structures.
I mean, we've looked at it more in depth, with the septic setback and all that too, so we know it works. If somebody wanted to be on class 6, this is a nice spot. If they want to go up the hill, there's other opportunities.
And did, even at a high level, they look at whether there were wetlands along Everton Road for the portion that 28-2 keeps that 744 feet of frontage?
Only within that dashed line, the area where it hits the road. Down in here, so
Within the dash line, you looked and no wetlands were
Right,
identified
right.
in that area between lot 29 and the dash line.
right, only what's shown.
Alright.
That was so that we knew you had upland access to it off of Abington.
Before we move to some of the other lots, anyone have any questions on 28-2 or 29 parcel B? Alright, moving along. What's the next lot?
So So the other adjustment is with 27, and the resulting, it adds a little bit of frontage as it goes up to the brook now. The new frontage is 394, and the area is about 6 acres, where it was 5.3 before, I believe.
Oh, I see. So the frontage increases slightly because it's going from that pin up to the brook?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the last lot, which was subdivided, 28-1. The new lot line is the brook, and it has all of the frontage, existing frontage on Baptist Hill. 1,500 feet.
back to the delineation.
And you've delineated wetland along that as well.
Along almost all the Baptist Hill, if I'm looking at
Well,
page
not
one.
all, yeah, but a good chunk of
A
it.
good chunk.
There, in that area, there's a couple of places you could put a driveway and build. Depends on how close to the road you wanna be or how far.
And then what, remind me again on Baptist Hill Road, what's the area that you're showing as a potential developable lot that wouldn't impact wetlands?
Well,
Grab that.
oops. So there's one right here, comparable to this one. Flat, it was an old log landing, I think, so that is definitely a place you could. And then up to the north, nearer to the stone wall, if you wanted to go up higher, there's some nice areas there, but that has upland access and site distance. But
And I don't think I saw it on the plan, but approximately how big are these areas? Because since I know this is a very
yeah,
large lot, but those,
so this one is pushing 2 acres of upland. Again, we played with a house footprint and a well and septic, and there's plenty of room in there. Grades are pretty level.
and then the remaining amount for lot 28, proposed
That's right, yeah.
lot lines and subdivision.
Okay. 43 acres and 1,900 feet of frontage. It has 300 on class 5 portion, 306 or 7, I believe.
And that lot will end up not having any frontage on Baptist or
Correct. Yep, the blue
Shaker.
yeah, correct. Existing house.
Any questions from anyone else? Otherwise, we can open it to public comment. Yes, Greg?
I'm good.
Logan? All right. Anyone in the public want to speak on this application? I'll make sure I can see everyone. It's like, no.
I got a quick question.
Start with you, go ahead.
Alright, I'm Dave Noel, I live on Baptist Hill Road, I'm like a butter like across the street from that big section that looks like it's 1,500 feet, I'm kinda near the northern side. I was just kinda curious, I couldn't really see from sitting over here what the maps actually look like and I haven't had a chance to review them. I was kinda just curious what the estimated like acreage is of that Baptist Hill lot that was gonna be, you know, that 1,500 square foot.
The whole lot,
Yeah, I'm just kinda getting an idea, 'cause I couldn't really hear it, like city acres, yeah.
71 or something,
Yeah.
71 or something.
Okay.
71.3.
With
It's a whole,
1,500 plus frontage on Baptist, so it keeps 71. That middle one which will retain its access on Averton, would be 43 plus, and the new 28.2 would be about 62 acres with 1,300 on Shaker.
Okay.
So still, all three would be very large
Yeah,
lots. Yeah.
and I'm familiar with the Baptist Hill section, at least on the, on the road. But you were looking at, you thought you, like, access points would be up on the northern section of the lot, like to go up that little area, and
And I can't presume to know where somebody wants to build, but that is one that works. And then there's one that's kind of in the middle of the lot, it's a nice flat spot,
alright,
so.
that's kinda like where the snowmobile trail goes down through the middle area there.
Yeah,
It's where that Woods Road is, there's a gate, I believe.
I'm sorry.
I don't know, we're largely polite, but just try to keep your comments directed at me, because
Okay,
that's the way it's supposed to be, as opposed to
Alright,
questions to the applicant.
Alright, I don't know the procedure, so
That's all
I
right.
understand.
So, any other comments?
No, that's it.
And you could, say things you would hope that we might ask.
Yeah, well, I was hoping about the acreage is what I really wanted, and I got it now, so.
All right. Yes, sir.
I have a question about.
Can you just state your name and
Hi,
address for the minutes?
Edward Bergman, 190 Shaker Road. Since I've been here, nobody's mentioned the water frontage on Shaker Road. That's a pond that's gotta be 5 to 10 acres in size. And I assume that's relatively close to where at least it's in the same vicinity of where the driveway's gonna be.
no, that's
Yeah,
not
so,
where the.
hold on. This is
No, the
not
driveway-
a back and forth
This
still,
is
so.
the
yes.
lot on Shaker Road. It was stated there was this DOT looked at a spot, and it must be someplace between 190 and 228, because those are the only two houses there. And it's already stated there's some kind of wetlands by 228, because when we walk by there every spring, it's standing water.
Right, so,
So I just wonder.
yep, so I'll describe what I can see on the plan, but do you mind pulling up the one with the wetland delineation and turning it that way, because I think it'll help. The plan shows the large pond and an area of wetland, and then it shows a setback off of all of those wetland areas. And then the area he described as a potential buildable lot was outside the setbacks, outside the pond, outside the
So the pond
wetlands.
is on that map?
Yeah,
Mhm.
Oh,
right here.
Can you turn it
okay,
that way, if you don't mind, just to help
I'd like to lean up on that.
simplify
There's a
it.
pond, this
Oh,
is here.
that's, yeah,
okay.
yeah. Alright, any further public comments? Alright, I'm gonna close the public comment portion. Before we go into deliberation, there are a couple things I wanted to touch base and discuss. So, who delineated the wetlands in this area?
David Jeffrey, I thought his stamp was on here.
Alright, we've run into that a lot. So, he is a certified wetland scientist.
Yes, he is.
And
Um,
you'd be okay with is adding
Absolutely.
his stamp?
Yeah, in note 6, it states who he is.
Second, which I kind of overlooked earlier, is the I mean, it's, you're gonna get there based on the size of the lots, but there's a requirement to show on subdivision plans what we call the Canterbury rectangle, basically a buildable area that meets the setbacks in it.
Yeah.
The areas you've described are 2-ish acres for all three.
Yeah.
I think okay, we would still like to see it on the plan, if you can delineate that rectangle showing the.
Is, my understanding is that's a lot shape.
It is, but it also it sort of shows where the it's about regularity, but it also helps in terms of potential buildable areas, so.
Okay. So I can add them, I didn't add them because I thought they're so big that they were lot shaped, but I can put them on.
Part of this is consistency, we've had
Yeah.
other people with not quite this big of lots, but who didn't have them, we had them add as well, so. I imagine no issue if that's a condition that you add those
Okay.
prior to recording, right? Yep. Alright, anyone else have any other questions for applicant?
Did we officially approve the waivers?
We, I I guess
Just
impliedly, we
implied.
accepted it as complete, yeah, we didn't say subject to the waivers, but I think it's clear from minutes. I should have had that earlier. Alright. Logan, any other further questions? Alright, so we'll go into deliberations and no further comment from the public or the applicant. Procedurally, I think it makes sense that we'd want to vote sort of collectively if we agree on all the lot line adjustments, they may not want one or the other. As I see it, 247 lot 27 is an existing lot, it does not become more non-conforming, certainly, same with lot 29, lot 241, lot 29. They both just get bigger. In terms of the other three, they're obviously gonna meet the acreage requirements and the frontage requirements. The only thought I had was that the remainder lot 28 being on a class 6 would implicate sort of the constructing a residence on a class 6, but the way that statute's written, it's about approving building permits. And so for that lot, it already has a building, it's not a, like someone's building a new house and they have to file a waiver with the select board. So unless someone's seeing something I don't see any issues in terms of conformity, acreage for the 3 parcels, frontage, or the ability to meet the the minimum rectangle that they're gonna put on, because these are so large. So if that's the case, and if no one else is flagging anything, I think we would ask, a single motion to approve. Now, here's my agenda. Each lot line and the subdivision, subject to the 3 conditions so far, which is correct the C note number 9 to note number 5. Have the wetland scientists who delineated plans stamp it. And add the 3 rectangles for the 3 created lots, 28-1 and 28-2. Any other conditions? Alright. Someone willing to make that motion? And if not, I can read out what the motion would be, and someone can say they moved it if that's easier too.
I can read it out. I
Alright.
move approval of subdivision and lot line adjustments, subdivide 22 Everton Road, map 241, lot 28 into 3 lots. Lot line adjustment between 22 Everton Road and 43 Everton Road, map 241, lot 29. Lot line adjustment between 22 Everton Road and 16 Everton Road, map 241, lot 27. With the conditions that the mislabeled note that says 9 will be changed to 5, that the wetland scientist stamps the drawings, and that you add the Canterbury rectangles to the 3 new lots.
Alright, is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion on the motion?
Do we need the Canterbury rectangle on 3 new lots or only on
So
2? Cause,
it is 3 new lots.
Sure. But there's
But
already a house on.
Conceptually, we think about it, but it's just to show that the remaining lot stays regular.
Right.
Not that, I mean, there's not gonna be a new building.
I'm
based on
just
that.
trying to save people hassle.
I want the hassle now, so that when the next person
Yeah.
pushes back on us having this requirement, that we say we're consistent and it's on all the applications.
Present hassle to avoid future. Got it.
Yes. Alright. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? Alright. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So, you're all set, and then I coordinate with the town administration regarding the
Sure.
filling those 3 conditions and getting it filed.
Alrighty.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Alright,
Okay, bring this one back too.
yes. Alright. Double check. Nothing got lost. Oh, take 3.
Alright, Clifton, can you come join us this one? We got
Take 4.
I'm not really up on any of this information, so I would be abstaining on any votes anyway.
This next one's brand new to us. But if you don't show up in the future, not a problem, but it gives us more flexibility. It's-
I would, you guys have a quorum already, so
We do, my concern is that if this goes more than one meeting and someone else isn't able to make the next meeting, that we have the flexibility, so. If you're able to join us, even if you're gonna choose to abstain, that at least gives us the flexibility down the road, if something happens.
I can't guarantee I'll be here again.
I'm not asking you to guarantee, it, just like,
Okay,
it doesn't hurt us now
okay.
to have you participate,
I'll sit at the table.
because if you're not here later, it's
Okay.
no different than if you didn't start.
Okay.
So, next up, and you can come up, please, is 2026-8 site plan review for map 258, lot 16.
Sorry, Jay.
And
This one over here,
I'll wait till the Cal's back so I can add some things to the minutes.
and then one over here, and then this one pink map. You got that?
Alright, Council minutes to say that
Yes.
Josh and Megan are absent. I'm having Clifton fill Josh for now as a voting member.
And then.
And then, Calvin, he has to disqualify himself. I can't disqualify him, but just so everyone else is aware, it's helpful. RSA 673(7), as I previously understood it, if you were on like the zoning board or the planning board and you heard an application and you were on the other board, if they were different issues, there wasn't a conflict, but if it was the same issue or one was appealing the other, it was a conflict. Well, that statute was amended April, effective June 21, so it applies now, and it's a member who also serves on the zoning board of adjustment. It's a planning board member who also serves on the zoning board of adjustment shall recuse from voting on any matter previously decided by that board in a quasi judicial capacity in which the member participated as a voting member. So 2 of us were involved somewhat with the zoning board when this previously came for a special exception. I was just an alternate. Calvin was not, he was the selectman rep, right?
No, I was a member.
Full ZBA member, and he voted on it. So under this statute, he participated as a voting member, he has to recuse himself. Which maybe Clifton, you can see why I'm more interested in having
I understand.
live
so
bodies.
that's- I understand.
I participated in like 2 of 3 or 4 as an alternate just in the discussion, and I checked the minutes on all of them, they had a full board. The final decision wasn't reached and I didn't vote on motions to continue or any other motions. So I read this as, I am not disqualified, the member participated as a voting member and I was not a voting member on the ZBA. And that also saves us from going down to 4 members, which is nice, because now we have an odd number, so. Are you going to recuse yourself?
Yeah.
Yeah. Get out. If you stay in the audience, it'll still be helpful.
Yeah, can I leave my stuff here?
Yeah.
Okay. We got it back after.
Alright. Disqualifications, you got that, Cal? Cal recused himself, alright. Hi. Just introduce yourself to start and then I'll walk through sort of what we're gonna look at today in the order.
I'm Mercedes. Here to talk about doing a summer camp and school on the property we live on at 141 New Road.
Sure. So, thank you for introducing yourself. We normally have name tags. I know it was a bigger crowd earlier, but Logan, Greg, Brendan, Clifton, Janice. What we're going to walk through is, you sort of saw a little bit earlier, is completeness, which is, did you provide the information that you're required to provide sort of to get in the starting gate? And you would ask for a few waivers, so we'll have to talk about those. When we rule on completeness, if we say the application is not complete, it just means you have to come back with more information before we start the clock of how long we have to decide anything. If we rule on completeness, it's not a decision on the merits, meaning like, do you actually comply with all of the site plan review requirements? It's just, we think as a baseline, we have enough information where we can have a discussion. We could still, over the course of planning board hearings, ask you for more information. So if we get past completeness, same thing, I'll ask you to just sort of walk us through in more detail all of the plans you have for the use of the property. And then there'd be a public comment at that point. We'll go from there. So any questions just about process before we begin?
I don't think so.
Okay. So can you start by just explaining us, go over what are the types of information that you gave us and walk us through what we have that you provided? And after that, just talk about the waiver requests that you made, okay?
Okay, so I have the site plan. I submitted some photos of the property. I did a rough drawing to explain or show parking examples. The building permit, I submitted our IRS approval, our Department of Education letter, and New Hampshire Department of State certificate.
Oops, let me slow down 1 second. So there's so many materials. Where's the Department of Ed letter to make sure I'm looking at the right one? Do you have a copy just so I can see it now? Because it's not my.
Like this.
I might have printed.
I can pass
These are the
around.
ones I printed, so I don't know. If you have a copy, I can look at that. It'd be very helpful. And if I find it, I'll give it back. Thank you.
Why don't you get one more of these for another person out there?
I don't know, you're taking
Another
drawing material away
Take
from
drawing
the
paper
baby.
from the tablet, but yes. I'm kidding. I mean, I'm not kidding.
I'll pass it around. Okay,
Thank you very much.
You can keep going.
I submitted a response sheet that I put together addressing some concerns that abutters had. I submitted a transportation agreement, a safety emergency management summary. And then like a packet on our mission statement and some questions about the programs. I think that was everything that I submitted.
Okay.
This time.
Can you explain the waivers that you're requesting from certain application materials?
Bearings, plans drawn to scale, water supply and septic systems, and state septic system. Explain why.
Explain,
Yeah. The bearings, because it was to have someone come out and do it was really expensive and took a long time to get someone to come out, and we weren't changing anything on the property. The plans to drawn to scale was because to see it better, to see the detail better. And then the water supply and septic systems and NHDES state septic system, because we wouldn't be using the septic system.
Questions from anyone on the board related to the waiver requests? And actually, maybe I'll back up. Do you have a copy of your site plan too?
Yeah.
Can you just walk us through what's on it and what's not on it? And how it was generated would be helpful.
So working with the person that put it together, they were able to use, I guess, different, so like using Google Maps and the flood map, New Hampshire flood map organization, I don't know the name of it, and different programs, or I don't know what they are, I'm sorry, I don't know the terms, like different sites that show the elevation and the property lines and land features.
So how was what's labeled as river determined?
It's Hayward Brook.
It's a, yeah, I guess it's a brook, it's not really a river, it's like a stream. I think that was from the flood map, and I don't know that much about how site plans are created or what. I don't know much about site plans, so I don't know if I understand the question.
Yeah, so the way the board usually looks at an application is there's some information that we get from the applicant. What do I want to use? There's some information that we get from a plan, and as it relates to water features and wetlands, they're usually depicted by a certified wetland scientist, because we don't have any personal knowledge of the property, aren't wetland scientists, don't have expert on exactly what is wetland, but there is a statewide obligation that nothing can be constructed in wetlands, and you can't alter terrain in wetlands, which we have no control over. We have to, we can't approve something that's going to do that without the person first going or subsequently going to get a state permit. We have a setback requirement, which
We aren't looking to build anything
well,
or
yeah, and so part of its building, part of its use, in terms of, if you were biking or walking or putting a trail that was directly through a river. So not getting into like how it applies to your application,
okay.
just talking about how we get information. That's how we get information. And so my question relates to basically how this water area was depicted and how other potential wetlands may not have been depicted, and what the source of your information is, because that informs whether we can rely on that information. Does that make sense?
I think so.
All right. So my understanding, based on just your prior comments, and please correct me, is that you had, it sounds like a friend helped you by using Google Maps. They maybe looked at the floodplain maps, and then they used some computer program to generate this image, which has your property boundaries, and it has what they've labeled river, but what is Hayward Brook and the existing structures on your property. Is that mostly right?
I don't know the person that made it. I paid a service to have it done.
What was the service?
It's in the
Site
bottom
plan
left
for
corner.
you.
Site plan for you? Can you talk to us, I'm gonna pivot slightly and feel free if anyone wants to jump in on that piece. Can you talk to us a bit about septic? And I use the word septic, I mean, so toilets in any form, and water for the proposed use. So how are you gonna get water? How are you gonna use the water? How are kids gonna go to the bathroom, staff members, etc.?
So we would get basically a shed, and then they have composting toilets. And there's a few different kinds. One of the kinds you can have a company come every so often and clean them out like an outhouse. And then there's ones that you can, it like rotates the poop and pee inside and goes through the different systems and breaks it down. So we're gonna use a composting toilet of some sort. We haven't purchased it yet.
And what's the plan in terms of water?
So just, they make 20-gallon, I believe it's 20-gallon containers, and we would just fill those, and it's like you pump it with your foot, and the water comes out and you wash your hands.
And is there a plan in terms of where the water is gonna go after someone washes their hands, for example?
It goes into like a gray water tank, and then you would have that cleaned out. You would have that sucked out, like when we do the composting toilet.
May I ask a question?
Mhm.
Are you referring to the proposed wash house
Yes.
for all these? Okay.
Yeah, there's a
It's,
this as it related to the
thank you.
two structures. And there's, I don't think I'm seeing them, but can you just confirm there's not front, side, rear setbacks shown on this plan in terms of setbacks from your butters? Right?
To what?
So,
To the outhouse?
no, so there's sort of two things I can circle on the wetland. But there's a requirement in the ordinance in terms of front and side setbacks. Second. But there are distances between your side property lines here, your front property line, your road, and your back, and they're typically shown for a couple of reasons. One is I think the setbacks specifically relate to structures, but it's also relevant to when you have a commercial use, ensuring it's sufficiently far from abutters as it relates to noise, odor, etc., all of those things. But I'm just trying to confirm, so if is the answer yes, that currently this plan doesn't have any sort of front, side, rear setbacks shown, right?
Is that like the 158 feet from the house to the property line? Is that what you mean?
No, that's yeah, that shows how far your house is set back from the property line, but the front and side setbacks are their own thing. So the way a lot of plans would do them, if I have your bigger rectangle they would delineate a smaller line that sort of hugs the edge of your boundary that has the correct distance. And then we use that to see if I'm just looking at your plan, you'd say, oh, can we see is the utility walking trail outside of that setback or inside of that setback? And same for the chicken coop, if there was a concern. I mean, that's not what we're looking at, but my understanding, the setbacks that you have, or the distances you have the 158, that distance from your house to this property line, right? And you have these other distances, which are those two 436 feet, 424, 420, are those distances to an abutter's house? What are those distances to?
I think some of the distances are elevation, but I don't know. I don't know how to read a site plan, I'm sorry.
Oh, those are corresponding to the topographic lines.
They're distances, but they're distances that don't make a lot of sense.
Well, they're on the topo line, so I'm assuming that's elevation.
But that doesn't make sense either, because if you look at the ones like in towards the pointy part, they're like,
1, 2, 3.
Oh, the 1268 and the 1262.
unless this is it doesn't make any sense.
No, that's footage from the.
It's gotta be distance from something else.
Yeah, it's
Those
not.
ones are distance to the property line. I'm
Yeah,
pretty certain
That's-
between that structure and that line.
yeah.
These ones are on.
I hate to say this, but I don't think that the service that built this is very reliable. For a number of reasons, but specifically I'm looking at this and it says, or it should say locus map, it says locust map with a T. And that's not the sort of mistake that you make when you
That was my mistake. I had sent the picture and put a T on it in the
alright,
the title of the picture that I sent, and
gotcha.
they just put it on there.
But still, they shouldn't have made that mistake if they knew what they were doing, kind of, but there's just a lot of things about this that don't. Like, I'm setting aside the fact that it specifically says on it, like, this can't be used for legal purposes, which makes it probably dubious for our purposes, like. This is kind of weird, it's a weird map, this doesn't make a lot of sense in a lot of ways. I don't know that we can use this.
So to sort of circle back, and the reason we're asking these questions and trying to find out what this does show or doesn't show is that when we get to the point of evaluating the site plan on the merits, which I said is sort of that second step after completeness, we need to be able to determine, based on the evidence you provided, that where you're going to locate your structures, where you're going to have classes out doing whatever they're doing, that there's not going to be an impact on existing water features like the brook, that there wouldn't be an impact on wetlands that may be on the property, which we don't have a way of knowing right now, that there's sufficient setback between them so that if we look at the driveway and you need extra parking and you're going to put it in a certain place, that we know there's enough room and it's not going to impact wetlands. And that if you have proposed trails, but there's a way that we could site them and you can show the wetlands and just put the trails in a different spot. That's sort of
The trails are already there.
the trails may be there, but the point I'm trying to make is the use that you're proposing is not its current use. Like a family that is currently using its trails that may exist and may impact wetlands is different than us proposing what is a commercial use, which is going to have more people and more impact that could hurt wetlands or wetland setback areas, which are by state law considered basically a resource of the entire state. That wetlands are so important that they're a public resource that we all sort of have joint ownership of. They're on your property, you own them, but you can't hurt them because it's so important. And the town added a pretty small but still a setback to wetlands. And that's sort of the wetland piece. And the second is you sort of preemptively addressed a bunch of the butter concerns. And that's very helpful to have those explanations. But part of the way we objectively evaluate those types of descriptions is this going to have an impact, is knowing the distances between certain things. If you're going to have the kids in one place and there's a yard and the distances are X, we can pretty confidently say if there's hundreds of feet, well, this shouldn't realistically impact the neighbors all that much. If the distances are closer, or if the proposed areas where they're going to be engaged in outdoor classroom activities are much closer, that's harder, and we need to have a better understanding of exactly where activities take place so that we can issue a decision. And that if anyone is upset with our decision, whether it's you or an abutter, and they appeal it, that hopefully the court would affirm our decision. They'd say the planning board had sufficient evidence and it made, these findings. I'm gonna pivot slightly because to the composting toilet and the gray water. And you would ask for a waiver, and there were sort of two pieces, and one was showing septic. And I think there are potential situations where DES approves a composting toilet, and they're all sort of lined up. But waiving where those things are shown on the plan is different than waiving sort of state requirements. And so the second piece, in terms of what DES approves, we have no ability to waive, and we would need to have a requirement that you have all state approvals. And my concern with the plan has less to do with the fact that I at least think it's correct, but we usually have DES confirm that you could have a composting toilet. It's that, where's my list, that this comes up often enough that DES has specific regulations related to gray water and how you can get rid of it. And there's even a section that specifically says, right, a composting toilet is not a replacement for gray water disposal. They have very specific requirements for a mini dry well, which I don't know if you could meet or couldn't. That's separate than like a real septic to dispose of gray water. It's sort of a lesser standard. But from experience, I also know DES really dislikes anything that is required to be pumped over and over.
And what is that?
These regulations in terms of the Department of Environmental Services in New Hampshire. And the reason they don't is not that, from my understanding, they don't think that you specifically are going to do anything wrong or that you're going to stop pumping. But when you approve thousands and thousands of these, when people run into financial difficulty, one of the things they stop doing is paying to pump stuff, and then they start illegally dumping. And if there's a proper septic system set up, or mini dry well, or whatever it is to handle all of the gray water and septage, you don't have that risk of someone failing to pump and having spills that then impact like community groundwater, wetlands, standing water, etc. So where I'm at right now, and I'm happy to have you talk me out of it, I'm happy to hear from other people, is that this plan doesn't give us enough detail in terms of distances and setbacks and wetland delineation, including delineation of the brook. And separately, not enough information as a baseline to know that you have a path to an approval process for DES. Like, we don't have to always see the approval, you don't have to get it ahead of time, but you have to have a proposal, sort of combined proposal that could conceivably be approved by DES, and then we can condition it on, you have to get, right, either DES approval for a composting toilet plus whatever system to remove gray water, or a letter from DES saying we don't need to give you a permit for the composting toilet or the gray water, so you can sort of have an either or.
I'm just thinking about the hand washing situation, which you need state from Health and Human Services, some organization there.
Yeah, I mean,
And what's gonna happen to that water in the cold weather?
and that's sort of the problem. I mean, this one on holding tanks starts with holding tanks or closed systems shall not be approved except, and there's very narrow situations. Mini dry wells. It requires like no other waste, so there's like a number of requirements, and so I'm not an expert on that, but I know enough to know that I'm concerned about what we have. In terms of the information you provided about the use in your application and the proposed yurt that is proposed, it's not a constructed yurt, right?
It is now, I got a building permit, it's up now.
Okay. One of the things that I think is a matter that we would need to see for proposed use at a school that would run from fall through spring is some sort of plan for what you're going to do if there's extreme cold temperatures, like -15 days that we had a number of last fall. And the reason we sort of need to see a plan up front, because if the plan is, for example, using your house as a fail-safe, then part of site plan review would need to be looking at the house itself.
So the yurt has a wood stove.
Okay, I didn't. Maybe I missed that in the application materials. I didn't see anything about heating or cooling for the yurt in materials that you did provide. Oh.
Food service?
Yeah, I'm trying to losing track of my brain in terms of before we leave and go there in terms of heat. Have you done anything in terms of, even at a preliminary level, discussing with the fire chief about code for the yurt and heating and egress and all of those issues?
Yes, and that, so I've kind of been going in circles because I have to have approval with the town to do this on the property, to go through the steps with the Department of Education, to start getting things built, and they don't come out. So I have like a list of what has to be done when I build things, but they won't come out and do it till it's done. And I have the thing with the Department of Education. So because of all that, we were gonna start as a homeschool enrichment program and not be certified with the Department of Education. And when we're just running the homeschool education program, we don't need all of those certifications and approvals.
What's a homeschool enrichment program?
For homeschool families, like a drop-off program that they can come and enrich their homeschool curriculum.
Well, I mean, I'm sure there's some definition in terms of the difference between a school and needing DOE approvals and a homeschool enrichment program. Like, can you explain the difference between the two?
So for a school, you have to have your curriculum approved, you have to submit attendance, you have to have your, you have to do a building inspection, you have to meet like a whole bunch of requirements. But with a homeschool enrichment program, it's basically like offering an art class. And as long as you have your LLC in your approval at your location to run a business, then you're just offering like a class, like a dance class or a art class.
And you're saying that you were looking at currently homeschool enrichment, so that you're not quite at that step. What does that mean in terms of scale? Like how many students, how many teachers, how many hours?
So if I walked out of here with approval, our first year, we would take on 8 students and have 1 teacher. And then it would be me and my 4 kids who I already homeschool,
Plus 8 additional
plus
kids,
8 enrollment
plus 1
kids.
additional teacher.
Yes, so
And-
myself, my 4 kids, and then a hired teacher and 8 enrolled students that don't live with us.
And that would be full-time school.
Homeschool enrichment program, yes. So it wouldn't, so we would offer 5 days of programs, but they could sign up for 2 days or 3 days or 4 days. And they would just get dropped off and picked up, and we would still follow Canterbury school schedule and 9 to 3 school day. And then as we get through this and we have the funds to get everything up to code and pay for the inspections and everything with the curriculum, we would grow into being a certified school.
Anyone else have any questions at this point? I'm gonna sort of go around.
Can I say
Sorry, go
one more thing?
You can, yeah, you can say anything.
When I originally started, I wanted to start as like a home business, but because we're not operating inside of the home, we weren't allowed, we were told we can't apply for that. That we would have to go through with zoning and everything else, even though we were starting as more of a home business, so to say, on scale level.
And part of the issue there is it's not just your family, it's more than a home business, it's a, it's a business all on its own merit. I think that's where the
Well, the
differentiation.
problem was because we weren't operating inside of the home. We're operating
Yeah, but-
outside, because it's a nature class essentially. So that was the problem we ran into.
Was that
We-
the ZBA?
We do site plan review for both, so it doesn't change that piece, but yeah. Janice, anything else?
No, how's that?
Clifton?
I mean, just one thing that jumps out at me, were these bridges in place? I don't know, were the bridges in place
Yeah,
prior?
the only thing we've done to the property is we've now built a platform and put the yurt on it. Everything else on here already exists. The gardens, the trails, the bridges, everything's existing.
I mean, the first thing that jumps out at me is safety concern over the brook, with the bridges. Those have to be inspected, or if you're gonna have a lot of foot traffic, kids traveling over them. That's just one thing that pops out at me. And obviously the site plan is incomplete per se.
Greg, you have food service, but anything else too?
Right, so one question was food service, is any food supplied?
No,
So you feed your kids and everybody else
we bring a
brings
lunch.
brings a lunch. So I do have a question, why are we approving a school if it's not a school?
Well, we do site plan review for a commercial use. I'm using a colloquial term, it doesn't really matter what it's called, if there's a change in use. And they got a special exception, I'm blanking on the exact language of the special
We're not the
exception.
legal determiners of who can and cannot have a school, that's the Department of Education.
Additional questions? Questions?
I think we've covered all this stuff that jumps
So-
out for me at the moment.
I mean, this is just about completeness.
It is completeness, and so part of that is, most of what I was aiming at was information on the plan.
Yeah.
The other piece related to that, I think there is a world where we could ask for additional information to finish completeness, but also schedule like a site walk, which would potentially help show or illuminate wetland issues, even in the absence of a delineated plan, is an option.
So you're proposing a site walk instead of a wetland survey?
Well, that's sort of the question is, but I flag that as, I think that is sort of an option where we could get, you know, a first-hand view. I am particularly skeptical of doing that where there's standing water on the property and,
Yeah, I'm not,
you know, it's
I'm not comfortable.
soil-based
making that decision.
wetland determination, so my preference would be to say that we need to have wetlands delineated. And it doesn't have to necessarily be the entire property of its own stuff, but wherever the core classroom activities are going to happen and wherever the crossings of the wetlands are from access from the dirt driveway to the yurt and those classroom activities, I think at a minimum we'd need to see.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So there was a building permit issued for, at least for the deck under the yurt, it looks like. So they, for the purposes of the building permit, they would have had to determine that that deck falls outside of the wetlands setback, no?
He's supposed to be looking at it, yeah.
One would hope, at least.
Yeah.
Okay.
An ideal world, if there's a building permit for a structure that's part of a proposed use as part of site plan review, I think they really shouldn't be approving permits in advance. Sort of like you can clear your forest all you want, but if you're going to propose something and clearing it is going to be part of it, then you stop being able to do it until the application. But that doesn't really, that's sort of neither here nor there at this point.
Water under the
Outside of wetlands, and I don't know that even all of you agree on wetlands, what information on the plan would you absolutely need to see?
Zoning boundaries, what it says with anything within a certain distance? Within 100 feet, or is it more than that?
Sorry, I'm not following. Maybe it's like 20.
We're supposed to have the zoning boundaries on the plot, the plan, like the plan we just looked at, that had all the zoning boundaries on it. If there is a zoning boundary within,
You mean the actual zones, like ag,
Yeah.
rural, et cetera?
just a dotted line, so on one side it says zone A and one side RU.
What, too many things. Do you know what
The
zone the
setback.
property is in? Is it
Rural.
1 or 2?
Rural.
It's just rural? Okay.
The setback lines you had mentioned before also.
Right. So, in terms of the setbacks, I think part of the reason it's hard is there's an absence of setbacks, but there's also an absence of a delineated area, like school activities or homeschool enrichment activities will occur in this area. And if there was a defined area for that, then you could have distances to the property boundaries that exceed other setbacks. I wouldn't necessarily need to see all of the other distance. And part of that is, and see where I'm going with this, these approvals, they get recorded, they follow the property. If you sell the property and the business to someone else and someone else is doing them and there's issues, people turn to those recorded plans to know what were you approved to do, where were you approved to do it. And when I looked at this, my takeaway was sort of, there is not a limit. There's like a couple specific things that students might do that are identified, but there's not they will not use these areas, or they will not use the 30 feet next to each of our property boundaries, or something along those lines that sort of limits the scope of the use. And knowing the limits of where the property is gonna be used for this purpose also helps us determine that abutters aren't going to be impacted. We can say, look, they, you know, these end up being enforceable, they're conditions of the approval. If, you know, you said that they were gonna stop, you know, down this walking trail here, wherever it is, and there was a line here, and you suddenly started using the back part that's closer to your neighbors, and there was a complaint, the town could enforce the fact that you've sort of expanded where you said the property was gonna be. If it's the entire property that you propose to be used or to be able to be used, then we'd really need to see those side, rear, and front setbacks, so that that's sort of the barest minimum.
It's not a hard thing to do, it's just a
And
straight
if you-
line that follows the boundary.
And if you narrow the area,
So is there a,
if you narrow the area, it makes it easier for us, and if you narrow the area a lot, short term, you could potentially have someone delineate wetlands for a much smaller area and say, for this year, for this proposal, here's what I'm gonna do, and then in a future year, if you're ready to expand beyond 8, you might need to come in with a bigger site plan, but to your point, if it's, then you're up and running, you have more money, you have the ability, now we want to expand the amount of the property we're using, we do a new site plan. But one path forward is, right, create a much smaller area that you're proposing to be used and commit to keeping everyone there. Delineate the wetlands in that area so that we can confidently say, that area is good, you're not gonna impact anyone. And have a plan for a septic and gray water. Does that track? Does anyone disagree with
No,
what I'm saying there? I mean, that, I don't know what wait time's like, but that's maybe a way that you can speed that up and not have your entire property delineated, which is more expensive.
Is is septic shown on this, the existing septic?
no,
That would be, that is usually required on a plan.
I had a waiver, or requested a waiver.
Do you know where your existing septic is?
It's like next to the garden, over by the house.
It would help even just have the approximate location of that. I mean, you're proposing not to use it, we can clean up some of the other stuff in terms of primarily use the yard versus you're not allowed to use the house, so then we don't have to be concerned with the house at all if it's a condition that you can't use the house, can't use the septic, etc. Or if the alternative is true.
So I have to say somewhere in this that we can't use the house?
We can, through this process, we can kind of agree on any conditions, and if part of the reason that I'd be proposing a condition is that sort of saves you the ability. I mean, the flip side is you could give us information that says when we're starting up and we're proposing only 8 additional people, that our septic is big enough that it can handle.
We don't want people in the house, it's our personal home, so it's,
I'm not, so I don't know what you prefer, I'm just talking about options differently.
Okay.
One is show us that can handle it, the other is show us that a different system is gonna handle everything. But the reason I'm talking about the house is I think you used the word primarily in the yard. And you
So-
used language that implied that there might be situations where people would have to come into the house.
so it's a nature school, it's a forest school. The year is for basically if it's really cold or we need to be out from the outside, but the whole purpose would be like gardening and taking care of animals and walking the trails, learning about the different trees and the ecosystem. So I don't know how.
So that's the part that gives me concern where you said like, unless it gets really cold, is that if there's any situation where kids are allowed to come into the house, then part of our review is making sure that the house is safe enough that if 9 additional people came in and there was a fire, that there's sufficient egress and that the house itself, right, can handle them. If there's instead the plan is they cannot use the house, absolute. What we look at is, does the yurt have, sufficient heating and egress, and do you have a sufficient septic? And then we don't care about what's going on in the house because it's not a situation where you're a commercial business and all these people come in your house. See what I'm saying? Hard line makes it easier and we don't have to look at the house. Gray line where maybe they come into the house, then we have to care a lot more.
Okay, so what's the current gray line that
The gray line is where you just described, we don't want them in the house.
we
But
don't,
maybe
so we
there's
don't
a-
want them in the yurt, we don't want them inside, it's to get kids outside, nothing, I wasn't referring to the house.
Okay, you're referring to the yurt,
The
you don't want them in
The
the yurt.
yurt is the
So-
structure for protection.
The gray line I saw then was that in the rest of your application materials, there was the word primarily, I think I saw a few times. What I didn't see was just a black and white, no students or teachers will be allowed in the house or to use the existing septic system.
Okay,
And if that's part of the plan, right, that becomes an enforceable condition.
okay,
And that eliminates any concern I might have over,
Okay.
do we need life and safety to look at your house? Do we need to care about the septic capacity?
Okay.
Still important to show the septic so we know that you're not gonna put a building directly on top of it and destroy it. But so where I'm looking in terms of completeness or where I see it, and again, weigh in anyone else, is you need to delineate wetlands, and I think maybe the best way forward is to like delineate a very specific area to say this is where the class is gonna be operating here plus just this area. Delineate the wetlands of just that area, show the setbacks from that area to your boundary, which I think will show that there's more than enough and you've got the forests. And that's a way to do sort of a partial site plan where we still have enough information on the plan to make our determination. Does that largely track any additional concerns I'm missing, or is that not work?
So I think what you're saying is reasonable, I'm not sure it's consistent with what she wants to do, based on my reading of the previous paper.
Right, I think, and that's where I'm sort of suggesting that you maybe want to scale back the proposal short term, then you can more easily meet site plan review requirements. I understand that I think the proposal long term, they would want to get to using a lot more of the property. I think we would need to see wetland delineation and setbacks and defined area for whatever amount of the rest of the property. So if you want to do more, then we just need more information. If you want to do less, we need less information.
And delineated on the plan where it's happening.
Right, and that's, so if you're not delineating anywhere, then we need the side and rear setbacks and the whole thing. If you're saying it's just this area, then that's what we would need, and you'd have to commit to operating your business just there until sometime in the future when you can come back and expand. I don't think you need it as a condition of completeness, but in terms of the actual DES approvals, but you do need a plan in terms of something that's, here's where I've tentatively talked and DES would be good, or I could apply for a dry well, or they would be willing to say, you know, you could have a holding tank or whatever it is, but something sort of gets us at the ground level, and then we can explore that more when we're talking in detail about amount of kids, septic, gray water, washing hands, etc.
How big are these bridges? Like, could you drive a truck over them?
yeah, so the one closer to the house you can drive over, and then the other one's like a wooden walking bridge.
The potential issue that I see here is, like, and again, like, things may have changed, because it's been a while, like, a lot of the ZBA information says, like, if there's extreme weather, you come into the house, so like, you've got the option of like, limit this to, you know, the vicinity of the yurt, say, for example, but then you have to make sure that the yurt can handle the needs of the students regardless of any kind of inclement weather, or you
So
need to.
the yurt's built to be able to live in.
Okay.
And the plan was never to use the house.
Okay, that's not consistent with what's in a lot of the CBA history.
Okay.
I would expect that if we got past completeness, we'd be asking more questions about the heating source and safety and the amount of heat and what would your closure policy be and those kinds of things. But for purposes of just getting in the door, you know, that there's a yurt, you can add that the yurt has a heating source
Was
for
there
this purpose.
a building permit for the yurt or just for the deck that the yurt is on?
Just for the deck, the yurt is just like it just pops up, it sits on the deck, it's like a canvas.
So, I mean, my thought is we can continue this. Rule that it's sort of incomplete, but continue it for 30 days to give you a 30-day window where if you come back and you have that information, you don't have to renotice or anything because we've continued it. If you end up needing substantially more time, you know, I don't think we can continue it forever. Do you want to? Because you don't have to make up your mind now. If you come back in 30 days or don't come back and tell the town, I'm not going to be able to get it, that's fine. That at least gives you the option to see if you can come up with wetlands information for us for proposal in 30 days. Does that work on your end? Does
Yeah.
that work in with the board? What I'd request is that we continue it for 30 days, where are we at in July, August, but also schedule a site walk for the beginning of the planning board meeting so that we can, if you're able to get the wetland information and delineate where things will be, that we can physically see them at the property. We can get all that information in one go, and then hopefully we can act on it then, assuming everything falls in, so at least you have the shot of us being able to act on it in 30 days. Strong feelings for or against?
So I would want to do the site walk once we know exactly what physical area we need to be paying attention to.
Yeah, so
Is that
that's sort of the way I envision
covered
it.
in your thought process?
You'd have to, she has to come back with more information.
Yeah.
It would be scheduled for 30 days out, so if she gets it to Cal ahead of that meeting, that we would have it before the site walk. The site walk's already on the books, so we don't have a notice issue.
Gotcha. Okay.
And then if it's a smaller area or a different area or whatever you're talking about, we'll have sort of the updated plan information if you can get it. And you can show us on the property exactly where that stuff would be, and we can see wetlands or no wetlands or whatever it is. And if it turns out you think that you're not going to be able to get all that information and you don't want to go forward, that you just notify the town so that we don't all show up for a site walk at your property and you're not ready to go forward, which I don't think you would want either. So if that works in the end, that's where I'm thinking. And otherwise, I'm going to open public comment, and then we can take it up.
It's a great start for me.
Okay.
Are you okay with us doing a sidewalk?
Yeah.
Yes, okay.
Is it like open to the public, like the whole public, or?
So if as a board, we meet and do a site walk, the public gets to be there. Generally, what happens on a site walk is we don't have a full discussion and the public doesn't get to ask questions. You just sort of say, here's where this is on the plan, here's where this is on the plan, and maybe we, like to the extent we ask questions, it's, am I facing the right direction based on your plan? And then we come back and then we can discuss what we saw in an actual meeting, so it's not like a meeting on the road.
Okay,
But where there's the whole board meeting, it does end up being open to the public.
okay.
But
We don't typically see like a huge number of people showing up, if that's what you're worried about.
I don't know,
This is
yes,
a legitimate
yes.
question.
it's my
Right.
home too, still.
so to sort of be through, because the proposal would be, here's our location of here's the location that you would be having classes or educational activities. That's the only part that we'd basically seeing. We'd see the driveway. Where would you propose parking to be? Where are the wetlands that you've shown on the plan? Where do you propose the educational activities? We would not be going in the house. We would not be going to other areas of the property that you're not proposing to use. And no member of the public can sort of do that either. They'd be walking as a group with us if they choose to come.
Okay, and then, so you had made a comment that even with home businesses, I would have to go through here.
Site plan review happens whether it's a home business
So,
or a regular
is there
business.
any way to do a home business if we're outside? Or does it still have to, like, if I only have 8 kids coming to my home?
So here's the thing, you got a special exception from ZBA,
I just,
which means you have the ability to use your property for this purpose. What site plan review does for any commercial use is we make sure that the way you're doing that use isn't going to hurt abutters or the public or wetlands. Or primarily what we're looking at is health and safety. Are the children gonna be safe? Are you gonna be safe? Because you're inviting people onto your property. So we would do that for home business if my sister-in-law did one where the basement of their house they use for occupational therapy. She had to do a site plan for the basement portion that is separated from the house that she uses for her home business. But the point being that where you're at now is you already have permission to do the use. The question now is, can you show us that the use, that where you're gonna do the use on your property sufficiently protects those people, the public, your butters? Makes sense. So, whether you got in the door as a home business or a special exception for an educational facility, you're past that point. Now it's just show us that at a minimum, 8 kids and a teacher can be safely on your property and not harm wetlands or butters or the public or themselves. And at a maximum, 30. And if it's you're scaling it back because you're not able to prove it yet, just based on cost concerns or time concerns, that's fine. We can approve a smaller amount. And that frequently happens even when people come and they say, I want 30 houses in the subdivision. And we say, well, the property only really fits this many, and they end up with a smaller number.
okay.
Feel free to direct any questions to Cal in the interim, and if you have questions about what they're looking for, she reaches out to me. So if there's, you're concerned about the information, we can't have the whole board weigh in on stuff, but to the extent we can help, we'll try to help.
Can I ask one more question that I'm a little confused on still?
Yeah.
Is, you were talking about something about the border? Like a,
So, yeah, where I was getting with that is, part of the problem looking at this plan is that where there isn't a defined area where you're gonna do this use, if we approved it like as is, the entire property could be used for it. And if the entire property could be used, we would want at a minimum to see the side setbacks to make sure that we can say, keep your use outside of the, I forget if it's 10, 20, 30 feet, it depends on the side, that's directly adjacent to your abutters.
okay.
And that's one way that we help, protect abutters, is we make sure you're centered. If you change your proposal and you say, I only want to do this area for now, because it's outside wetlands or clearly outside wetlands or whatever it is, we don't need that side setback area, because instead you could say this area is this many feet, this many feet, this many feet, and we know that there's a lot more distance well above the side setback.
Do you know what a seam allowance is? Too bad. A seam allowance is how much fabric you need on the edges of things to make a seam without your
Okay.
clothes falling apart. This is like a seam allowance for your lot.
So is there somewhere in like the Canterbury book that says what the barrier setbacks are?
Yeah,
Is that the
I
same
think
as
it's
like
under,
the building setbacks?
it is, but it gets looped into commercial uses because it's
Okay,
a minimum for buildings, but it's one we could say, keep your use outside of that setback. The other thing where we have granted wetland delineation waivers in the past is if you pick a very specific area of the property and it is very clearly not wetlands, and you say only this area will be used, and we do a site walk and we look at it, a much smaller area, that's a situation where we wouldn't necessarily delineate, because we can say we're only approving you in this specific area. In the same way that with the prior application, they delineated a portion of wetlands where a house might go, and they didn't bother to do the rest of the property because it wouldn't be used for that purpose. So if you take a look, you know your property at this point way better than us. If this area is very clearly not wet and you can sort of flag an area and say this is where we're going to do it for this year, that may be a situation where we can come back, do the site walk. Then we could, we have enough information to say that we can waive delineation. But I don't know the answer to that, and only, at this point, only you do, yeah.
Isn't parking and drop off and stuff part of the use?
Right, so good catch, and so we don't lose it, same thing, which is wherever you're going to park cars, like that would be something we'd be looking at to see if that's wetlands as well, and if there's any question, that's where we might need it to be absolutely delineated.
And where that parking lot is specifically on this site plan, cause it's hard to make that determination from that.
Yes,
Versus-
Right, I think you had photos, but hard for us to take the photos and place them. But if it all works out, we'll see it, in 30 days. I say 30 days, but it's the 4th Tuesday in August.
I can look at the calendar.
It's the 28th. Sorry,
Well, now I'm getting different information.
25th.
25th.
Okay.
My calendar reset to today and I put it back up.
Let's open it to public comment real quick, and then I think I have some closing thoughts, and we can move on. Public comments.
How did she find the wetland? Does she have to have that certificate that you talked about in the other one?
So that's what I'm talking about, that normally the person who delineates a wetland is a wetland scientist.
Right.
And part of the reason is that New Hampshire defines wetland not by
Yeah.
plants or water, but by soil. It's about poorly draining soil, so like Audra Klum does a lot in Canterbury, she's specially trained to identify wetland. If there's any question, if there's any areas that are a little bit wet or have wetland type plants or have drainage issues, we're gonna need to see it delineated so that we can be certain that we're not approving the use that is in the wetlands or a structure that is within the setback, because
So she needs a
you can use
certificate.
setback. But if there is an area, like a defined concrete area that is very clearly upland and not wetland, and she says this is the only area we're gonna use, we have granted in the past waivers if the board has seen the area, say this is clearly not wetland.
Yeah, but that means
But-
keeping
but-
any of these kids out of the brook.
Right, so with the exception that we would know obviously that is wetland, so that's what I'm gonna say is that I don't know the answer to that, and the applicant has to make a decision. Do I think I need to have this certified, which is the safe approach, and that if you can I strongly encourage you to do it, because then we know for certain.
So the service that I need is a site plan, like a surveyor,
So a,
or wetland
Wetland
surveyor.
I'll
scientist.
break it up, but most surveyors employ a wetland scientist. And the surveyor puts on like topography and buildings and distances and the property boundaries. The wetland scientist delineates on top of that plan, where are the wetlands? And so the normal thing that they do is they have a surveyed plan or a partially surveyed plan, and they delineate a portion or all the wetlands wherever it's applicable. If you can find a wetland scientist who will delineate wetlands for a specific portion of your property based on,
But if I wanna use the whole property, I have to do services for the whole 24 acres. Like if I wanted to take the kids on a walk and we walk the trails, I have to have all of that gone through the wetland services wetland scientist.
I mean, yes, one of our application requirements is to delineate wetlands. If your proposed use is to use the entire property and to have, all of these people who are there for education who are also using the property, we would need to see that they're not gonna use it in a way that's going to harm the wetlands. And we can only make that determination by knowing two things: where are they going to be? And how often, and how many of them? And two, where are the wetlands precisely? And so that's where I'm getting at, is that if it's the whole property you wanna use, that's the information we need. We need where are the wetlands on the whole property. If it's a portion, We need to know that portion, because then at least we can limit the use to that area.
And would the wetland scientist be the one to tell me how many people can use that area without it disrupting it?
They could give like an opinion letter, which is, I don't
But you
see
guys
impact from X, but the
decide.
primary thing that they're doing is they're telling us where the wetlands are. And then when we're looking at your application, we take your information, here's where the students are gonna be. We ask you a bunch of questions about how often, about what activities, the frequency, all those other things. And then we have to make a determination based on knowing where the wetlands are, and all that other information is, do we think that your use adequately protects wetlands? But in a weird way to think about it, the board doesn't come in with facts, so we're sort of dumb to what's happening on the property, and we have to rely on the facts that you as the applicant provide us in terms of use, in terms of wetlands, etc.
Are we, I'm sorry, I wanna make sure when I come back I have the right
Yeah.
answers for you. Are we allowed to use wetland areas, or can we not use them? Like if we wanna collect water samples or play in the creek, is that allowed, or is that not even allowed?
So I think state law, the thing that we can't do anything with is alteration of terrain. Which means you can't, right, dig up or modify or do anything like that. Wetlands can be used, but you'd have to, right, you have to tell us how often and what you're gonna do and what purpose. And that's where we make an impact. So, right, there's a difference between we're going to every day play capture the flag on top of this wetland and run back and forth, and we're going to do science experiments where we collect water and put it on a microscope and look at what microbes and insects are living in the water. Like those are different uses.
Okay.
But all of that is sort of what we have to consider. And so walking trail, different than biking trail, different than OHRV trail, so they're all different levels of use. And if you're creating new trails, that's more problematic than using existing trails, but still something we have to look at.
Okay,
Alright,
I think so.
I guess stream crossings are another sensitive thing for DES.
right, so and we'll know more, but at least based on what we currently have, it looks like there are existing crossings and we would be able to see those on the sidewalk, which may help alleviate some of this.
And people at the town office can be very helpful in making sure that you figure out which things that you need.
Any more questions before I open it to public comment?
I don't think so.
Okay. Public comment, I started making my way around, I saw no, any more?
Yeah, I'm
Alright,
open.
any public comment?
Yes, Dan Bowman, 135 New Road, I
Thank
live
you.
right beside her. I have a ton of questions and concerns, but I don't have any information that I really want to ask the questions at this point. All the things that you brought up
Yeah, so.
need to be addressed.
And I appreciate that when we get past completeness, that's when we will in-depth review
Yes,
impact and all this. Right now, we're just looking at
yeah, I
information.
want this, all the information that you do.
Alright,
Next month.
I'll be.
okay,
And
so
nobody loves that answer, but.
August 25th. We'll need a motion to continue and also to schedule a site walk for 6 p.m. 6 p.m. work? Generally?
Generally.
Harder for
Generally.
Emily with the kids. To the extent you can make it,
Date
I
again?
appreciate August 25th.
Okay. 6 p.m.
Do you want separate motions on that or one?
I think it's fine, it's one to continue and to schedule a
I will move that we continue this to the August 25th meeting and also schedule a site walk for approximately 6 p.m. on that day.
Just change it to exactly 6 p.m.
Exactly
So no way
6
started.
Precisely 6 p.m.
Precisely 6 p.m.
Not 6:01, not 5:59 on that day,
Okay.
so we can see the property.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Alright. I understand that I dragged you into this. We do still have 5. If anything comes up, let me know, but to the extent you can make it, I would
I
greatly
will be
appreciate
able to
it.
make it, I should be able to make it.
And more important now for the 4 of us especially, because we don't have the others, and so it creates more problems if you don't.
With worst case scenario, just bring the child away.
So they can try everything out.
Yeah, sure. He's a little under the age bracket.
Alright. Just to plant the seed now, for the site walk. It can be helpful to flag things, which is if there's an area and you want us to look at a particular area, you can flag it so it's easier for you to say, like, this is the proposed area, you know, follow those flags, or that is the area that is clearly wetland, or whatever it is, and also to flag wherever you want people to park. Okay. Otherwise, let Callum, she can reach out. Thank you, sorry we kept you a long time.
I appreciate your guys' time, I'm sorry I kept you guys.
Oh, it's all good, that's right.
Is that hers?
Do you need?
Yeah, this one was hers, and then
That's part of the
That's part of the file.
Okay.
file.
you can have this too if it's helpful, just thinking down the road where you need, as we talked, you don't need now, but in terms of either the DES
I
saying
used one.
you don't need a permit for this proposed compostable system, or you don't need a permit for this hand washing station, or you do need a permit and here's what it is. That's some of what you're gonna need to look at to
Okay.
find the right person.
Okay. Okay.
Alright.
So I need to know, okay.
Right, and so what will end up happening on all of them is we say, like, a condition is you get all required DES approvals. But part of that is we wanna know that you have a path to approval and not, a lot of people say, I don't think a permit's required. And in those situations, we ask for a DES letter that says, you know, no permit is required, or the permit is a final condition and then you go get it afterwards.
Okay, and is the DES like a town person, or is this like a state?
They're the state, they're broken up into divisions, and I always blank as to whether this is water or subsurface. I think it's subsurface, but if you call and you explain, like, I'm looking to do, you know, this, and to have this many students, and I'm trying to figure out what permits I might need or might not need, can you help get me to the right division? They're 75% good at getting me to the right division. Okay.
It's a government office, you can ask them.
And when you get to the right division, they're very good and very helpful.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you guys.
I'll be in at 8 tomorrow, so anytime from 8 to 3.
Okay, like 8:15.
Sure.
Thank you. Am I good?
You're good.
Okay.
Alright. Meeting closed. That part of the meeting. Hearing closed. Where was my list? I think it was just old, new.
And other.
And bear in mind, it is 9 o'clock before raising any issues.
Absolutely.
I just wanna say, it's August, we need to get cracking on warrant articles sooner than later. That's your monthly reminder.
Yep.
You're as good as project management software.
You know,
Well, I know November comes
I
late.
spend 45
Yeah.
minutes every 2 weeks stressing about the cluster ordinance and then not doing it. So it's taken a lifetime out of me.
No,
Maybe we
I
shouldn't have skipped
yeah.
that last meeting that we skipped.
Well, I wasn't here.
He was in the Dakotas.
No, not you, the meeting that we canceled. Not you personally. I'm not digging at you, it's an
I mean,
individual.
part of the reason it was canceled is I couldn't be there in
Gotcha.
addition, and we had no business. The only business I had is, I don't know why I'm looking at the time, matching its calendar.
Mine.
Should hang up a calendar there.
I'm going on a vacation for the first time in 7 years, and it's August 10th to 20th. Thanks.
Awesome.
I'm like, oh, naturally, I'm just planning
For just a day?
10 to 20. 10 to 20. That's 10 days.
Days, yeah.
I don't think we have any hearings scheduled for the next meeting, right?
We don't have any applications in for the planning board right now,
Okay.
so the only active one is this new
This
road one, and that'll be the 25th.
So, alright, so my question, and part of it will be TBD, depending on if anything comes up in the next week. But would your preference be to meet or not meet if we don't have any hearings and I
It
am
sounds
not
like
here?
we need to, if you're not here. It's like, it sounds like we need to work on warrant articles.
I mean, we could work session in.
You don't have to decide tonight, so.
Yeah. So,
I think
maybe,
so.
go for it.
The way it has been developing, you're basically central to the process, right?
Well, this process. I think the only reason I'm flagging potentially canceling is because I think we have no necessary. But yes, on the cluster subdivision, the key is me getting something. So I can think we can tentatively plan that you guys are gonna meet, and that this is my final kick in the butt, that I will have a draft to you and you guys can review it and discuss it the 13th, and I can commit to that, and
Okay.
I'll get a draft out.
Yeah, I mean, Kevin's not wrong, we should probably get a button here on
I'd love to have the video, but
Wouldn't we all?
Alright, so let's keep it on, and let's put the only item for that is
review.
warrant article work session.
Is there anything it just blanket like that, or is there something that you're thinking about working on?
No, I mean it could be that
think it's
broad
mostly
in
that
part because
Cluster
if we
ordinance.
get to anything, we have to actually
Right.
notice the public hearing and
Reviewing your draft is what
Reviewing
basically the.
well, I want it to be more vague because there's maybe still a 5% chance I fail, and then it just says work session. But yeah, if you want to put cluster subdivision, you can put that too.
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second? All in favor?
I
I
wasn't trying to be standoffish, I just,